All right, welcome to our deep dive, and today we're tackling Paperboard Products Assembler interviews.
That's right, helping you get ready to land that job.
We're talking constructing boxes, tubes, plates,
Basically anything made of paperboard.
and we've got some great resources to guide us. RoleCatcher's Career Guide and their interview guide specifically for Paperboard Products Assemblers.
Packed with insider tips and common questions.
So think of this deep dive as your secret weapon. Before we jump into those interview questions, though, I'd love to get a feel for the job itself. What's a typical day like for a Paperboard Products Assembler?
Well, you're going to be in a manufacturing or production facility.
Okay, so maybe a bit noisy then.
Possibly, yeah. But the key thing is you need to be super precise and pay attention to every detail.
Got it. Precision is key. And what are the actual products? What kind of things are they putting together?
You could be assembling boxes.
With like compartments and all that?
Exactly. Or tubes, maybe for shipping or storage.
Makes sense.
Even things like paper plates or craft boards.
Wow, so it's more diverse than I initially thought.
It really is. And speaking of things that are helpful,
Like RoleCatcher.
exactly like RoleCatcher, their AI can actually help you tailor your answers for these interviews.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. How does that work?
Well, it looks at the job description and suggests answers to those typical interview questions.
So it's like a personalized practice session.
That's a great way to put it. All right, are you ready to jump into some of those common questions?
Absolutely. Hit me with them.
Okay, here's one you'll almost certainly encounter. Describe your experience assembling paperboard products.
Seems straightforward enough.
It is, but you can't just list off your past jobs. You need to go deeper.
Give them the juicy details.
Precisely. For example, did you ever assemble a really complex box, maybe with lots of compartments?
That sounds challenging.
It can be. Talk about how you tackled it and how it showed your attention to detail.
So it's all about showing, not just telling.
Right. Bring them into your experience, and they might follow up with questions about challenges you faced or what you learned.
They want to see how you handle those tough spots. Okay, so you've talked about your experience. What's next?
Tools. They're going to want to know you can handle the equipment. Expect a question like, what are some tools and equipment you have experience using?
So more than just scissors and glue, I'm guessing.
Definitely. This is
Wow.
where you drop those industry-specific terms, die-cut machines, folder gluers.
Okay, I'm taking notes.
Seriously, mentioning these shows you've done your homework. Even better if you can explain how they work and why they're important.
Got it. Knowledge is power. Now, I know safety is a big deal in any manufacturing environment. What kind of question might they ask to gauge my safety awareness?
Something like, how do you ensure you're following all safety protocols?
But it can't just be about saying, I follow the rules, right?
Nope. You've got to showcase that you've really internalized those practices.
Okay, so how do I do that?
Mention specific training you've had, like forklift certification or maybe lockout procedures. Talk about personal protective equipment you're familiar with.
So showing them I'm proactive about safety, not just reactive.
Exactly. And this is another area where RoleCatcher's AI can be really helpful. It can analyze your answers and even suggest some industry-specific safety language to use.
Awesome. I like having all the help I can get. Okay, we've covered experience, tools, and safety. What about teamwork? That's got to be huge in a production setting, right?
Absolutely. You might get asked, describe a time you had to work collaboratively with others to complete an assembly task.
So more than just saying, I'm a team player.
Way more. Think of a specific story that showcases your communication skills, how you shared responsibilities and contributed to the team's success.
Like a real-life example.
Exactly. And just like with those other questions, be ready to talk about the challenges you faced and how you overcame them.
I'm sensing a theme here. Stories are powerful.
You got it. They're much more memorable than generic statements. Now, what about those times when things don't quite go as planned? They'll probably want to know how you handled those curveballs.
Makes sense. Everyone makes mistakes, right?
Of course. But it's about how you deal with them. So be ready for a question like, describe a time you had to troubleshoot an issue during the assembly process.
Oh, so they want to see my problem-solving skills in action.
Exactly. Pick an example where you had to think critically and come up with a solution.
Break it down for them step by step.
Right. And don't be afraid to mention what you learned, even if the solution wasn't perfect.
So it's all about showing that you can learn and adapt.
You got it. All right, we focused a lot on those nitty-gritty interview questions, but I'm also curious about the bigger picture. What kind of career paths are open to someone in this field?
Oh, well, there are tons of possibilities. With experience, you could become a supervisor. You could specialize in a particular type of product.
So you could become like the box master. I like that. Or you could even transition into related fields like packaging design or engineering.
Wow, that's awesome. So there's room to grow and really build a career.
Absolutely. And RoleCatcher's Career Compass feature can actually help you explore those different paths. It can identify skills you might need and even suggest relevant training opportunities.
It's like having a personalized career map.
Exactly.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground already, but I feel like we're just getting started. There are so many more interview questions to unpack.
We've only scratched the surface.
So for everyone listening, stick with us as we delve even deeper into those tricky interview questions and give you the tools you need to nail that Paperboard Products Assembler interview.
Stay tuned. Welcome back to our Paperboard Products Assembler interview prep.
Ready for round 2 of those tough questions.
Let's do it. All right, picture this. You're in the hot seat and they ask, how do you ensure the quality of the products you assemble?
A classic question. But how do you give a standout answer?
Think specifics. Don't just say I'm careful. Talk about actual quality control measures you've used. Like, did you visually inspect each product?
Looking for any defects, right?
Exactly. Or maybe you used measuring tools to make sure everything was accurate.
So it's all about showing them, not just telling them.
Right. And you can even get a bit technical. Mention specific tools or techniques. It shows you know your stuff.
I like it. Okay, next question. What about staying organized and efficient, especially in a fast-paced environment?
Oh, yes. Get ready for something like, how do you prioritize tasks when assembling paperboard products?
That's a good one. I feel like I'd freeze up.
No need to freeze. Just have a system in mind. Do you prioritize by deadlines? By complexity? Maybe you're a to-do list person. The key is to show you have a strategy for managing your workload.
Like a mental game plan.
Exactly. And if you can, try to research the company a bit beforehand.
To tailor your answer to their specific process.
Exactly. It shows initiative. Okay, now for a curveball. Imagine they asked, how do you handle difficult or complex assembly tasks?
Oh man, that one would make me sweat.
No need to sweat. They're not expecting you to be perfect. They just want to see how you approach a challenge.
So what's the best way to answer?
Start by saying, you're not afraid of a challenge. Then walk them through your process. Would you break the task down into smaller steps? Consult instructions. Ask a colleague. It's about showing resourcefulness.
And I bet RoleCatcher's AI can help practice structuring those answers.
Definitely. It can even guide you on using the STAR method.
STAR method.
Yeah, it stands for Situation, Task, Action, Result. It's a great way to tell a concise and impactful story.
Cool. Okay, so we've tackled complex tasks. But what about when things go wrong? I'm sure they'll ask about that too.
No, they will. Expect something like, describe a time you had to troubleshoot an issue during the assembly process.
Oh, yeah. Gotta be ready for that one. Any advice on how to answer?
Think of a specific example where you identified a problem, figured out the cause, and fixed it.
So like a real-life detective story. Exactly. Walk them through your thought process. It shows you can think on your feet. For example, let's say you're working with an automated gluing system, and suddenly the glue's not sticking. What do?
Panic.
Not quite. First, stop the machine to prevent further damage. Then you'd start troubleshooting. Is the glue temperature right? Is the applicator clogged? Is there a problem with the paperboard itself?
So it's about being methodical.
Exactly. Now, shifting gears a bit, let's talk productivity. Meeting those production quotas is essential, right?
Definitely. Got to keep things moving.
Right. So be ready for a question like, how do you ensure that you are meeting production quotas?
This one feels a bit tricky. It's not like I can control every aspect of the production line.
True, but you can control your own work habits. This is where you highlight your time management skills. Do you use timers? Break down tasks? Avoid distractions? The key is showing that you're efficient and focused.
Got it. So it's about personal accountability.
Right. And it also helps to have a good understanding of the entire assembly process.
So you can anticipate potential bottlenecks.
Exactly. It shows you're thinking ahead and understand the bigger picture. Okay, we've talked a lot about technical skills, but what about those softer skills, like communication or attention to detail? Do those even come up?
Oh, absolutely. They might not ask about them directly, but you can weave them into your answers to other questions.
So, like when you're talking about teamwork or troubleshooting, mention how clear communication was key.
Exactly. or how your attention to detail helped you spot a problem. Those small details can really make your answers stand out.
I like that. Any final advice for our listeners as they prep for these questions?
Practice, practice, practice. The more you rehearse, the more confident you'll feel. And don't forget, RoleCatcher's AI can help you fine-tune your answers.
That's like having a personal coach in your pocket.
Ugh.
Okay, everyone, stay tuned for the final part of our deep dive. We're going to be tackling resumes and cover letters.
Get ready to make those applications shine. All right, welcome back to our final round. We're switching gears now from interview prep to crafting those all-important application materials.
That's right, we're talking resumes and cover letters. Gotta make a good first impression.
So let's start with the resume. What are the must-haves for a Paperboard Products Assembler resume?
Well, first off, think back to all those skills we discussed. Assembling different products, using those specialized tools, following procedures, that attention to detail.
And of course, safety.
Absolutely. Make sure your resume highlights all of that.
But it's not enough to just list those skills.
Nope. You've got to show them how you've used those skills in your previous roles.
Give them the details.
Exactly. And use action verbs to make it pop. Instead of assembled paperboard boxes, say something like, efficiently assembled an average of 500 boxes per day, exceeding production quotas.
Ooh, I like that. Numbers make a difference.
They do.
Yeah.
And don't forget about certifications. Forklift certification, quality control training, those should be front and center.
Right. Shows you're serious about the industry. Now, what about the format? Any preferences?
Chronological usually works best. Start with your most recent job and work backward, highlighting your responsibilities and achievements at each one.
Makes sense. Shows your career progression.
Exactly. And remember to tailor your resume to each job description. Highlight those keywords and skills they're looking for.
That's where having a master resume that you can easily adapt comes in handy, right?
It definitely does. And RoleCatcher's CV Resume Builder can be a lifesaver for this. You can create different versions for different jobs. Super easy to highlight the right stuff.
Plus, RoleCatcher's AI can suggest keywords based on the job description.
Right. Using those industry-specific terms can help your resume get noticed by those applicant tracking systems. You know, those ATS things that companies use.
Increases your chances of actually getting seen by a human.
Exactly. Okay, now let's talk cover letters. Some people think they're outdated, but I disagree.
Me too. It's a chance to show some personality.
Exactly, and connect with the hiring manager on a personal level.
So how do we make our cover letters stand out?
First, personalize it. Address it to the specific hiring manager whenever possible.
Show them you've done your research.
Yes. And the structure is important too. Start strong, stating the position and why you're interested. Then, use those body paragraphs to expand on your skills and experience. Remember those star stories from our interview prep?
They come in handy here too.
Absolutely. Use those real-life examples to show how you can add value to the company. And of course, sprinkle in those keywords from the job description.
They're all about connecting the dots for them.
Exactly. And finish strong, too. Reiterate your enthusiasm, thank them for their time, and let them know you're eager to chat more.
Keep it concise and confident.
Exactly. And don't forget to proofread. A typo can ruin a great cover letter.
So true. Fresh eyes are always helpful for that final check. And speaking of helpful, RoleCatcher's AI can analyze your cover letter for tone and clarity too, right?
It can. It's like having a virtual writing coach, making sure you're putting your best foot forward.
Well, that wraps up our deep dive into the world of Paperboard Products Assemblers.
We covered a lot, from the day-to-day of the job to those tricky interview questions, and of course, making those applications shine.
Hopefully everyone listening feels more confident about pursuing this exciting career path.
It's a dynamic field with lots of opportunity.
And remember, hard work, preparation, and a little help from RoleCatcher can make all the difference.
Best of luck with your job search, everyone.